Again, I want to thank everybody for being here today. You're about ready to, it's going to be something special here in a second for you. I want to, before we get started here with your next speaker, I just want everybody to know that in the room today is a World War II veteran who was on the beaches of Normandy, a D-Day vet. He turned 91 years old yesterday, and we'll be honoring him tonight at the dinner that we're having. And I want you all to meet Mr. Ralph Batz. Thank you, Ralph. Ralph is the reason that we're all able to be here today. So I'm going to answer a question that I get asked consistently throughout the conference and this one and the one that we did in Dallas, and that is, Mike, how do you and your wife do this? And the answer is we don't. God does this. That's how these conferences happen. Is God puts them together, God brings the speakers, and God brings all of you. And fortunately, God brought one of the most incredible men that I have ever met on my journey of Hear the Watchmen to where we crossed paths. And when we first started talking, we kind of bonded instantly. And my wife and I went up and we had dinner or lunch with he and his wife, and a friendship grew, and I'm truly blessed to have the next speaker in my life. L.A. Marzulli is an award-winning author, a lecturer, a filmmaker, an internationally recognized specialist on the Nephilim. He's written 9 books and received an honorary doctorate in recognition of his research. L.A. will illuminate you on the coming days of chaos and explore the debate about natural versus supernatural viewpoints and offer the one and only solution. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring up L.A. Marzulli.
Hey, man. Good morning. How's everybody? Okay. People are still coming in. Please hurry up so I can start. All you lollygaggers out there. I've actually got an hour and a half, which is really cool. I only thought I had an hour, so I've piggybacked basically 2 other presentations onto the main presentation. So, which is because there's so much to talk about, so much is going on. And the first part will be basically from, got my brand new pointer here, Watchers 10 DNA, which is the title, and of course Nephilim hybrids. And we're going to talk about this little guy and how we were duped, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But thanks for being here. Y'all having a good time? There you go. For those of you who don't know, we do a weekly program. It's called PPS Report, Politics, Prophecy, and a Supernatural Report. It's on Roku. It's on our YouTube channel. We started off this year, 2016, with about 2,000 subscribers. We're up over 37,000, and it's growing. So we're obviously making a difference. It's a basically a 30-minute program, which I think is TV quality. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. So check that out. It's on Roku, L.A. Marzulli. On the YouTube, L.A. Marzulli, and you can check that out. He that answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame unto him. What I mean by that, that's in the Proverbs. There are people online who think they know everything, and they act that way. And that's called arrogance. And it's also ignorance because they've done zero research. But they'll sit in their mom's basement, and write nasty hit pieces. Or maybe they'll sit in their ivory tower and write nasty hit pieces. But they never go out in the field, they never take a risk, they never do anything. And that's problematic. And what's really problematic is when Christians do it against Christians, and that's what we're seeing. It's one thing when I got some secular bozo who doesn't know anything. It's another thing when I've got someone who claims to be born again and spirit-filled coming at Tom Horn, Gary Stearman, Bob Ulrich or myself. I take umbrage with that. I really do. You know, you're supposed to come to me one-on-one in the biblical sense. And don't give me, well, you're a public figure, I don't have to. No, you're supposed to come to me if you got an issue. They never do. They just blast away with the hit pieces. So before I move off the slide, recently, you know how when we read the Gospels, I'm sucking on a lozenge, by the way, so that's what I'm smacking up here. Recently, you know how most of us, when we read the Gospels, right, it's kind of like, wow, look what Jesus is doing now. He's walking on water, really cool. Wow, he just, healed the blind man, and he opened up the ears of a deaf man, and we're all into that, right? We're all into checking out. It's really fun to read the Gospels. Well, the Holy Spirit did a reversal on me recently. He said, why don't you look at it from his POV? And so I began to read the Gospels for the umpteenth time, and I looked at them and read them through the eyes of Jesus. Everywhere he goes, he's reviled, he's hated, he's called a bastard, people were trying to kill him, they spit on him. I mean, you name it, it's going on. He's got a, and then he goes through the crowd mysteriously, he disappears, all this kind of crazy stuff. But they hate him. Yeah, there's people that love him, but they hate him. They're trying to kill him wherever he goes. And then what does he say? And this gets into what everybody's been talking about this weekend. Why should we be surprised when we come under the same type of persecution? It is unbelievable. And there are days when it gets to me. And what Father does, what the Lord always does, which it just amazes me, when I start to feel a little low, 2 or 3 emails will come in from people that I don't even know. That, well, I wrote you that email 3 years ago. Oh, great, you and 5,000 other people. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that there's no face, there's no voice. So how am I supposed to keep track? I can't keep track. But we'll get these accolades, and I put them in a file called accolades. And I just sit there, and sometimes it makes me weep because I'm a sinner saved by grace, a wretch that I am, right? I mean, right here, just like all of you. Without his saving grace, by grace you are saved, we are saved, lest no man boast, right? That's what it's all about. So for those of you who want to work your way in, good luck. I'll stay on the grace side of things. The bottom line is, so much is going on. And as we've heard all through the conference, most of the church is completely asleep. Completely asleep. In fact, they're at the point where they don't want to hear anything about any of this stuff. Just leave me alone already. I want to rile up the sheep, LA. Come on now. Got that new wing we're trying to construct here, and offerings are going to be down. We won't be able to complete the new wing. Heck with the new wing. Screw the new wing. Warn the people, because when it comes down, and you'll see later on, when it starts to come down, when it really starts to happen, it's going to get really, really weird. When the supernatural openly begins to manifest with the natural, all bets are off. And unless we know what we are looking at a priori before the event, even the elect would be deceived. You be the judge of that. My people, he that answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame unto him. My people perish for lack of knowledge. So let's get into this is all from Nephilim Hybrid's book and Watchers 10 DNA. Catalina Island Archives. I got to go out there, and the backstory of this, some of you know it, some of you don't. It's all On the Trail of Nephilim Volume 2, one of our best-selling books, shameless plug. But the bottom line is this. I go out to Catalina Island because I heard from Jim Watson, who wrote a book called Mysterious Catalina, that this guy, Ralph Glidden, who was an archaeologist back in the 1921, he was employed by the High Museum, right? There was a cache of records that had been hidden away for like 50 or 60 years, that the old, it was, excuse me, up in the attic of this theater, and no one knows where it had gone. And John Borgina, the former curator, discovered this thing, and he opens it up, and the rest is history. So I'm having lunch with this guy, Jim Watson, who's the author of Mysterious Catalina, and he goes, hey, LA, are you aware that they just found the Ralph Glidden archives? And I go, you got to be kidding me. So anyway, one thing leads to another, and I call the museum. Oh, Mr. Marzulli, you're not degreed, so unfortunately you will not be able to come out and examine the artifacts. Well, how about a $1,000 donation to the museum? Oh, come right in, Mr. Marzulli. And that's exactly the way things work. Everywhere. Trust me, everywhere. Well, we'd like to donate something to your museum. Well, come. So anyway, so I go out to the museum, and I flew out, which is really, I can get down on a rabbit trail here, and I'll restrain myself. And we'll tell you about that. I got to fly an airplane. But anyway, I get to Catalina Island, and I go into the museum, And this is what it looks like. It's all sanitized, it's all picked through. I'm not looking through this trunk, oh my gosh, look at this. I'm not doing that. Everything looks like this. This is a museum box. Everything is cataloged. Everything is stamped and written. Everything is filed. Everything has been gone over pretty much with a fine-tooth comb, right, by archaeologists and anthropologists who were there months before I was. So I'm coming in, but I'm still excited. And the first thing I ask is, let me see the photographs. So they come out with the book, and you see Glidden photos, burials, San Miguel, Santa Catalina. And I'm going through these things, and I start finding pay dirt instantly. And I'm just sitting there with my jaw on the ground. Now, this is from Catalina Island, black and white photograph. It's the original photograph. I just love this. This is what being on the trail is about. Sometimes you're in the field and you find stuff, but other times you're in the archives. I spent 10 hours in the archives. 10 hours, 5 hours one night, 5 hours the next day. I looked at everything, every piece of anything, every piece of scrap paper. Ralph Glidden was buried today. I mean, everything that this guy had, I looked at. I went through. So this is my first thing. Notice the elongated skull here. Notice the greatly elongated skull here. That ain't normal. That's not normal. It's just not normal. Now, there's a thing called cranial deformation, cradle headboarding, when you take an infant and you wrap the infant's skull and you can shape it. We've got a sample of what that looks like in the back on our table for those of you who want to take a look at it. But I think that skull, it's a one-on-one replica, okay? It's not really a real skull because you get arrested. You can't do stuff like that. We got a real skull in the back here. No, it's a one-on-one replica. But go take a look at it. We believe that is not the result of cranial deformation, cradle headboarding. And that gets into this whole really weird area, and you'll see why it does. So here we've got a picture in Catalina that I discovered, my intellectual property. And here we've got, this one was pay dirt. Here we've got Ralph Glidden, the primitive archaeologist. This picture is circa 1919. So it's almost 100 years old, laying in the archives. No one knew it was there. No one cared about it. Nobody cared about it. It was just sitting in some plastic sleeve in a manila envelope in a green museum box tucked away in a vault, never, ever, ever to see the light of day. Except your intrepid researcher discovered this puppy. And the moment I looked at this thing, I said, oh my gosh. And I called John Borgino over, who got fired shortly after that, by the way, and said, hey, John, look at this. And he goes, oh my gosh. I go, that doesn't look normal, does it? And he goes, no, it doesn't. So Gary Stearman told me that there were 3 people, or that there were people that can take these kind of pictures, and based on the height of Ralph Glidden, which is 5 foot 8 inches, right? And they can extrapolate the distance between Ralph and where the giant is, and account for that, figure out where the camera is. Obviously, it was above him and further away. They can put all this on graphs. They can digitize everything, and they can tell me how big the skeleton is. So I had 3 researchers do this. There was no collusion between any of the 3. Nobody knew what anybody else was doing. All they had was this one black and white photograph. They had the height of Ralph Glidden, which was determined by multiple witnesses at 5 foot 8 inches high. So everybody kind of knew that, and they went off to the races. So this is what we discovered. We discovered that when you take the man out and you stand them up, he's there. When you take the skeleton out, he's at this height. When you put the 2 together, you've got a skeleton 8 foot 9 inches, but we rounded it down, not to be sensationalistic, to 8 foot 6. I'm a 6 foot guy, and I'm going to show you in a little bit what I look like next to. So there's Ralph. There's the giant. And that's what it looks like. It's really big. And I want to show you something. This is the season of the History Channel. This is the finale. I want to show you just the way they massaged all this information. The bottom line is, I'm a 6 foot man. Go up 3 feet. Just go up in your mind 3 feet. So I'm 6 foot, 9 feet is maybe up in here someplace. It's really big. And when you go up, you'll go out. And I'll show you a photograph of that in a little bit. When you go up, you go out. And I'll show you a picture of me with this guy who we blacked out his face, who I met at the Dallas. And God was big. He was an ex-basketball player. He was only 7 feet tall. That's only a foot taller than I am, and I look like a midget next to this guy. Wait till you see the picture. The bottom line is, this picture of Ralph Glidden and this giant, this is my research, my intellectual property. I mean, we found, that's not supposed to be there. Do you guys understand that? It's not supposed to be there. It's not. It's not supposed to be there. You don't have 9-footers walking around on the planet. It doesn't happen. And guess what? We found 2. We found 2 pictures. And both of them seem to be 9-footers. So something is going on here. Why don't we know about this? The Native Americans all know about it. First Nation people know about it. They talk about red-haired, 6-fingered, cannibalistic giants that roam the Americas. That's what they talk about. It's in their oral tradition. Well, we can't have oral tradition in LA because it's oral tradition. Nonsense. Nonsense. Native Americans, First Nation people, train up a young boy from when he's very young, who shows a proclivity, a leaning towards being able to memorize, and they will tell the stories to the child. And he has to repeat them back verbatim, not changing one word. And that's how the oral tradition is passed down from one generation to the next. Every tribe, with the exception of the Nakota, way up in Canada, that I've spoken to, have legends of red-haired, 6-fingered, cannibalistic giants. And guess what? They were here in this state. They were running around in this state. Absolutely guaranteed. In fact, someone sent me an article where the early settlers came upon the remains and they thought they were the remains of the Canaanites. And the Canaanites are a Nephilim tribe. There were giants in the land in those days, in Genesis 6, and also afterwards. This is the 2015 season finale. I want to watch the way they spin this, folks. Watch the way the History Channel and Prometheus, they allow me to, and this, it's just like, hey, lady, you want to appear on the History Channel? Yeah, I do, but how's it going to work? And they send me this ridiculous contract, and I go, well, I'm not signing that. And we send it back, and 2 or 3 times later, we finally agree on something that they don't have the right to portray me as an idiot. That's basically what they said in the first contract. We're not going with that. So, that being said, I went on record, and we did the interview. It was a Skype interview. They couldn't even fly me out or fly the guys in, whatever. And that was fine. Watch the way they massage it. They did allow me to talk about the Nephilim and the biblical prophetic narrative regarding the Nephilim. What they didn't do is allow that to stay with the viewer. They immediately spun it. This is the way the game is played, folks. This is the way the game is played. There is an agenda, and we'll get to that later on today. There is an agenda. And that agenda is it's ongoing. It's been the mystery of iniquity. It's been here for thousands of years and continues. And the end game of that agenda, that unholy agenda, is to bring about the advent of a one-world religion, a one-world government under the rule of the Antichrist. That's where it's all headed. And why do I know that? Because Scripture tells me that. And we are in the process of moving into that time. That's why all the nonsense that we see. And there are people and players on this planet who are already sold out to that agenda, already sold out to that dark spiritual force, which basically permeates everything. By the way, Lady Gaga is going to do the Super Bowl this year. Why not Yo-Yo Ma? We can't have any culture in LA. That just won't work. No, the Lady Gaga. Watch the occult a-go-go. In your face, guaranteed. In your face. And you know what? All the churches I have ever been to, they have Super Bowl parties, and they'll sit there and they'll have their little mini weenies, which I absolutely love, and all this other stuff, and everybody will have a good time. Super Bowl, I don't even care who's playing. I just go and have the mini weenies. That's all I'm there for. They're so good. I'm getting hungry. Getting near lunchtime. Can I have a mini weenie, please? So here's the deal. Think about it. Here's the deal. It's like, where are we? What is this? Why doesn't the church stand up for crying out loud? Why don't we boycott it for crying out loud? Why don't we do something for crying out loud? We don't. Praise the Lord. We don't do doodly squat. Because somebody was saying yesterday, the snowflakes. We don't want to hurt the snowflakes, LA. I'm a snowflake, please. You're in my space, really. Please, you're in my space. Oh my gosh, you just looked at me. That's a hostile act. Ah! I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Whatever happened to John Wayne? Oh, that's politically incorrect, LA. We can't have John Wayne. He actually has muzzles and he shoots people. This is where we're at. Now we have a snowflake generation. You know, it's like, don't get me going. Anyway, watch this. Watch the way they spin it. Right back to the Darwinian paradigm. Why? Darwinism is sacrosanct in both the scientific community and academia. It's the prevailing paradigm. The world runs on Darwinism, not Duncan's, trust me. It does. And if you aren't a Darwinist and you're a biologist, good luck trying to do anything on this planet. It ain't gonna happen. And Darwinism, we're always pummeled. Oh, those silly Christians, they don't believe in Darwinism. Excuse me, you've never proven your theory, because Darwinism is nothing more than a theory. By the way, NSA, I know you're listening. How you doing? How you doing, NSA? We love you. We love you. Vote for Jeb. Jeb was supposed to be the nominee. This is a total sidebar rabbit trail. I'm already in trouble, and I'll never remember what I was talking about, because I'm already down at too deep. No, I'll get back to the History Channel. Jeb and Clinton, the two houses were supposed to run together. Trump is the spoiler. If you don't get out and vote, and don't give me, well, he's not a Christian. If you don't get out and vote, you're a snowflake. Because, thank you very much. Thank you. I got a standing ovation. Yeah, baby, pull it down. Oh, for sure. So look, if you don't get out and vote, you are a snowflake. It doesn't matter. If Hillary gets in, it's abortion on demand. It's liberal Supreme Court justice. It's over. I'm telling you right now, if she gets in, forget the country. Forget meetings like this. Forget everything. Higher taxes. A basket of deplorables. Boom. I mean that with all due respect, Madam Secretary. And Limbaugh got it right. She's a witch with a B. What she is. All right, let's move on. Watch this. This is the Skype interview. This is when I present the evidence on Catalina Island to the Vieira brothers on the History Channel's finale, In Search of a Lost Giants. Now, with all due respect to the Vieira brothers, they had doodly squat. They had squatting, as we say in California. Squatting, try that, squatting. They had nothing, okay? Squatting. That's not even a word. He's making up words up there. So here's the deal. Watch the way they spin it. Just watch the way they spin this thing. Watch how they take what I say, and then Vieira comes in and he just goes whoop, and watch where they go with it.
At this point, it becomes very obvious that there's a real disparity.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Look at the skull size.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's huge. Absolutely huge.
Wow. Yes.
So we think it's a smoking gun. I think it's a smoking gun.
What's the takeaway?
Well, my takeaway is this. In my opinion, this skeleton does two things. First, it points back to the veracity of the Native American oral tradition that there were giants here. Second, it points back to the biblical narrative of the Nephilim being on the earth. And I find that absolutely fascinating. The Nephilim are, in fact, the progeny of supernatural entities.
The biblical passage is about the Nephilim being a creation of the sons of God interbreeding with the daughters of men. So this interbreeding action created a race of giants who I believe were portrayed as malevolent.
Here comes the spin.
Could this biblical account of the sons of God interbreeding with the daughters of men to create the giant Nephilim be rooted in an ancient truth?
Could all this have a supernatural explanation like L.A. Marzulli suggests? I'm not sure. I can think of another scenario.
Jim believes
I mean, do I have to say anything else? Really? See what they do? And it's never, I mean, let me ask you something. Do you really think a chimpanzee gets up, and why don't we see just one of them in some zoo someplace going, excuse me, I have the gift of language now. I'd like to come out of this cage. Thank you. And I'm tired of these stupid bananas you're feeding me. I want something else. Nothing happens like that. They never stand up. They still walk around like this, and they're knuckle draggers. And you know what? You know why? Because we're told in the biblical prophetic narrative that everything reproduces what? According to its kind. Hummingbirds beget hummingbirds. They never beget penguins. No matter how long it takes, it's just, you can go billions of years, you're going to get a hummingbird. Now, this is where it gets really weird. Now we can take the genes of one particular species, and we can mingle it with the genes of another. I am from Bangladesh. I better do my Italiano accent, otherwise people are going to be going, Marzulli, yeah, you're making fun of everybody else except the Italianos. I smack your face, Marzulli. Okay, so we got that out of the way. All right? So what is happening now? We take the genes from a firefly over here, and we mix them with the genes of a frog, and the frog lights up in the daylight. That's what they can do. I'm not making this up. That's what they can do. So we are now in the days of Noah. This is why the king has to return. He has to, because pretty soon there's going to be nothing more human to come back to. Amen. All right, watch what they do with this. It's unbelievable.
It could be an ancient account of interbreeding between two species of early man.
It sounds pretty freaky, but the idea of interbreeding is a reality. You have Neanderthals and humans interbreeding. You have Denisovans 40,000 years ago interbreeding with Neanderthals and humans. It's a proven fact, actually, by science that you have these different species interbreeding. But there might be a mystery species that is mixed in there.
For Jim, recent discoveries make this possibility very real. In the early 2000s, Russian archaeologists found fragments of bone and a tooth in a...
Okay, stop right there. Russian archaeologists found fragments. What is a fragment? A small part of a whole. They found fragments of bone and tooth. Watch what they can do. And don't ask me how they do this. These guys are just geniuses. They're experts. Because just from that tooth and that little bit of bone, they can tell you exactly what it looked like. Really? Watch, it's really just, I mean, if it wasn't so comical, right?
Siberian cave. DNA analysis at the Max Planck Institute in Germany revealed that they belonged to a previously unknown species of ancient human.
Now, how do they know it looked like this? I mean, seriously, how do they possibly know it looked like that?
To have all we know about the Denisovans be just two pieces of bone finds, tells you that, who knows? There could be a new startling find any day. Why not ancient humans and some undiscovered, as of yet, species of giant hominid?
That is called spin. That is called spin. And the problem is with this, that we sit here, and we watch this stuff, and it goes by so quick that oftentimes we're just in a stupor and we don't go, oh my gosh, what am I looking at? And it's the same thing going back to the Super Bowl. It's exactly the same thing with the Super Bowl. We sit here and we watch this stuff and it's like, oh, here's Madonna. I wonder what she's gonna do. Hey, where are those chips, honey? Chomp, chomp, chomp. Oh, there she goes, man. And she's doing full-blown occult Illuminati symbols on stage. I mean, are you kidding me? And it's like, where's the church? Well, we don't want to get everybody upset, LA. Come on. This is how far down the rabbit hole we are. This is how far down. And why isn't this place absolutely filled with 1,000 people? Why? You tell me why. You tell me why. And it's embarrassing. So we go back to the Catalina Museum where I discovered the picture. Now this is months after it was already on the History Channel. The picture went viral. I had published a book, On the Trail of the Nephilim. All those pictures and many more are in that book. So we go back to the museum. And the museum is in the bottom of the Wrigley Theater, which is this huge round building on Catalina Island, 26 miles away from Los Angeles, right? And it's in the basement. So we go in and we walking down the aisle, we make a right turn like this, and bam, we're hit with this. And this is a huge, they've taken the picture, they've blown up the picture, so it's now like 2 feet by about 1 foot high, and underneath this is all this verbiage about Ralph Gooden and how nasty he was, and it's a hit piece on Ralph. Okay, I get that. He wasn't the cleanest archaeologist. He did things with a pick and shovel. I get all that. But the guy, we can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. So look at this. That's what the picture should look like. See my book underneath it? And let me go back here. That's what is in the Catalina Island Museum. The picture should look like this. What did they do? They cropped the giant out of the picture. This picture was in the archives, hidden away in a plastic sleeve and a manila envelope and a green museum box, tucked into a vault, never, ever to see the light of day. And what did they do? The moment it went viral, the moment I came out with real scientific evidence by 3 people saying that we got a 9-footer here, what did they do? They take the picture, they blow it up, they write a hit piece on Ralph Gooden, and they crop the giant out of the picture. That is what we're up against. Anything that goes against the Darwinian paradigm that may point back to a supernatural is immediately dealt with. And this is what happened here. I'm not making this stuff up. I wish I was. Okay, the Ving creature. It was a hoax. It's a total hoax. And I stood up at Prophecy Watchers in July and stated, to the best of my knowledge, I believed it was real, based on the information. I also stated, not only in the book, but in front of a live audience, that more testing needed to be done. Guess what? We did the more testing, and I'll show you what happened. So this is Jaime Maussan. He's the owner of the creature. He had it tested in Mexico. Doctors, geneticists, people looked at this thing. We all thought it was real. There it is. We all thought it was real. And it looked, the wings in the back, where the arms were put in, we all thought it was real. It fooled everybody, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So watch what Ricardo Rengel says here.
Thanks to the feet.
Okay.
But this creature have another.
This man is a geneticist. Oops, sorry. This man is a geneticist. So watch what he says.
Thanks to the feet.
Okay.
But this creature have another. Is the wings. We have an X-ray of this creature.
We have an X-ray.
Yes, we have an X-ray.
What did the X-ray show?
And we can see the structure of the bones related with the structure.
So this is not a hoax?
No.
Hear what I said? So this is not a hoax. It's my first question to him, basically. So this is not a hoax. This is Dr. Ricardo Rengel. He's a geneticist, and he says, no, it's not a hoax.
No.
It is not a hoax.
Not a hoax.
Because an X-ray would show that it was a puppet or a mold.
No, this is a model. And we have a sample of tissues of this creature, and we sent to DNA molecular laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
But when the laboratory tried to sequencing this DNA, not found a concordance with DNA from the mammals or another creature.
So both the mitochondrial DNA and the nuclear DNA, no matches at all?
No match with any creature related with the mammals.
Wow. And how many labs tested that?
Only one.
Only one lab?
Only one for now.
The fingers, the hands and the fingers, how many fingers did this creature have? 5, okay.
Five,
Only 5.
we have... no tienen las fotografías. We have an analysis of a microscopy analysis of the fingers.
Okay.
And we have microstructure, very interesting. And this is impossible to create by
a puppet or I understand, or a mold or whatever.
Mold, yeah. And this is important to start a serious research into the creature. So this is the deal. We finally got X-rays of the thing. This is one of the pictures. Notice the stinger here in the back. We looked at this thing 3 years ago, this close. We held it right up. We looked at every which way. We saw no signs of tampering, of a hoax. It looked like the real deal to us. But we weren't sure. We had no idea. And honestly, I was leaning towards hoax, and so was Richard. We were perplexed by some things, and I'll show you why. See the X-ray here? And it's so easy to look at it now after the fact. I can look at it and go, oh, I can see, but now I know what I'm looking for. But everyone look at these X-rays. Doctors examine them, nurses examine them. It fooled everybody. And this is obviously very dense here. That was problematic. Same thing with the wings. Notice the way the wings are. And when I sat with a veterinarian and showed him the X-rays, he said, well, that's obviously very dense bone, which is why it's so white. And it's anything dense on an X-ray will show up whiter. But what really sort of stumped us were these white dots. See this here, 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 all this stuff? We didn't know what they were. And I kept going, maybe this is what glues the creature together. Scout's honor. The skeptics, oh, well, you're just making that up now. No, this is on the record. As God's my witness, that's where we were at. We were going like, because we didn't know what these round things were. We didn't know what they were. So here's another shot of the X-ray. You can see the leg is broken, and Rick's going, well, maybe that's how it was repaired. I'm going, yeah, or maybe that's how they glued the thing together. We didn't know, but we didn't know we looked at these round objects, and we were really perplexed. What are they? Do they hold the creature together? So we take it to a veterinarian, In your opinion, looking at the pictures and x-rays, we've been looking at, could this be some sort of a composite based on 4 or 5 different animals? Look at the face, the teeth, the ears. What are your thoughts? The first vet. If it is, it's a very good composite. Someone very professional put this thing together. I mean, just the way the bones, I can see the joints, I can see where the ribs lead into the sternum, I can see the femur going into the hip. For someone to put this together would require a lot of work. LA, what would be your takeaway? Vet, from a medical standpoint, these are real bones, real joints, and a real x-ray. The question is, what kind of animal is it? And if it is a fake, what animals did they use to put this together? It would be a very professional job if it was a fake. You need to get a forensic pathologist because I'm just looking at some x-rays. They look like the real x-rays to me. Now I ask him about the white dots. So what do you think these round things are? Metal? They look like metal. If I had to guess metal objects round like this, I've seen this before in animals, it's pretty clear. BBs. It could be buckshot, birdshot, a shotgun. Buckshot, someone mistook it for a bird or something. And then at that point I go, you can hear it on the film, Watchers 10. That's interesting, buckshot. That would really make a lot of sense. The vet, it's a faraway shot, LA. Yes, wow, interesting. The shot may have broke the bone in the leg. Now we're off to the races at this point. This is the second vet that we interviewed. But we still didn't have the creature in our possession. All we had was the x-rays. So we arranged with Jaime Maussan to bring the creature out of Mexico. This is the moment where we're in the vet. Actually, there were 2 vets at this office, Agora Animal Clinic. That's where it was. It's about a 20-minute drive from my house. This is Dr. Berry. He agreed to come on camera. The other vet didn't want his name associated with this thing at all. And I understand why. This stuff is really creepy. Okay, I get it. So we pull the thing out of the jar and everybody goes, oh my gosh. And I go, well, what do you think? And he goes, well, it looks like a demon. I mean, right out of his mouth. This guy's got no religious background that I'm aware of. So here it is in the jar. This is all, by the way, we're producing a 40, 50-minute DVD, which will be free. It'll be on Vimeo. It'll be on YouTube once it's finished. And it's called The Anatomy of a Hoax because it fooled everybody. It fooled Dr. Berry. So the first thing we did is we took brand new x-rays. Notice the difference in clarity. Huge. And Berry was bothered. Unfortunately, it's kind of dark. It looks really good on this monitor, but it's really dark on this monitor. What can I say? The first thing he did is he went, I'm troubled by the way the sternum is attached to the pelvic girdle. That doesn't look right. And then I said, well, is it possible, there's a lot of birdshot here, that it shattered the pelvic? And he said, yeah, it's possible. But he kept coming back to this area. And he was perplexed and bothered by it. He was vexed by it. There was something weird, but he didn't know what. He didn't know what and this, of course, is a side view of it. And, you know, look at the way the wings are attached, and you can see, I mean, everything looks real. See up in here, the arms, everything looks totally real. And he's looking at it. This is a trained veterinarian, for crying out loud. He looks at hundreds, thousands of x-rays in the course of a year, and he thinks it's real. Both of them do. The vet techs think it's real. Every one of us, I think it's real. Because that's, you know, maybe, oh, it's because you wanted it to be real. No. We're just trying to go where the evidence leads, and it seemed to be real. The vet's going, well, it looks real to me, so that's what we're going with. Here are the old x-rays. And this is where it started to go south. And we thought at first that this was calcification from the birdshot. We knew it was birdshot. We knew it was number 7 birdshot because 2 hunters came up and looked at the x-ray. So we knew it was birdshot. We knew it was number 7 birdshot. When we were there with the vet, he extracted the birdshot from the creature. We put it in a sterile plastic cup that was going to be analyzed. We took DNA. We took the heart and lungs out of this thing. That went into a plastic container, all sealed. That's going up to the lab for DNA. We took hair samples. That was cut up. That's going up to 3 different labs for DNA. We're on the trail, man. We're not fooling around. We're there to vet this thing, find out what it is, find out if there's any genetic anomalies. And we think that this thing here is just calcification from the birdshot, because the thing's submerged in a watery solution, an alcohol solution, and the birdshot is calcifying over a period of 3 to 5 years, and this is what we think it is. And this is the moment of truth right here. It's now been about an hour and a half, and the skin, see the white stuff right here? By the way, that's a much better image. See the white stuff? That's the calcification. So we think all this is just calcification from the birdshot. And this is the moment of truth. Underneath, right here, see that? So we're finished examining this thing. We're getting ready to go home and pack up the creature, send off the stuff to the lab. We're excited. We're really excited. And right here, you can see it really plainly now. And I'm going, that doesn't look right. And I reach down and I pick up this thing right here. And I go to the vet, I go, what's this? And he goes, that looks like wood, and that looks like epoxy on the end of the wood. And I go, what does that mean? And he goes, that means the creature isn't real. And it was like, and I wrote about this, it's like, you know, those big balloons at the Macy parade, it's like, instantly the whole room just went, whoosh, oh my gosh. My first thought is, oh, we did 2 programs, one on Skywatch, one on the Prophecy Watchers. I get on the phone immediately and call Gary Stearman and say, it's a hoax, don't go with the program. They put the kibosh on the program. Same thing with Skywatchers. And we went in and we did damage control 4 or 5 days later with Derek Gilbert. That's all over the internet now. But of course, oh, LA, you lied. You really didn't tell them immediately. It was 5 days later before you went with Derek. How do you know that? I mean, they just want to just get in there and just, They're mean-spirited people. Look, I got egg on my face. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. I was raised Catholic, what can I tell you? But the bottom line is we all believed it. And the moment we found out, we went right to the people that we knew we had to cover. And and we waited for Derek, and the reason why we waited till Wednesday, because when I got home, I immediately looked up a zoologist. Because now that we knew it was a hoax, we wanted to see how it was created. And we went up to Santa Barbara, which is like an hour and a half, 2 hours from our house, met with a zoologist who took this thing apart in front of us and showed us, oh, these are bats, this isn't bat, this is like, we're not sure what this is like a monkey skull with putty on it. I mean, he just died, and it was built by a master taxidermist. So you can see right here, there's the epoxy. The lower arm, which is right here, was glued to the upper arm, and I'll show you the x-ray, and that's which will become the iconic picture of the anatomy of a hoax. Look at this now real carefully, and I'll show you what we discovered. And the second vet was right. There's no sockets for the femur to join into. The actual socket is way up in here on both sides, and that's what was troubling him. But he said, well, maybe it's because the pelvic girdle was completely shattered. Notice there's like an armature. It was this plastic little rod thing. Flexible plastic rod that went from the cranial area down into the pelvic girdle, which held these 2 sections together. This was real, probably the body of a bat. The legs were bodies of bats. This arm here was a body. But look at this. Notice right here, see the glob of glue, and that should have been a dead giveaway to the doctors, but no one saw it. Nobody saw it. Once I held it up, Dr. Berry and I ran back over to the x-rays, and we looked at this and we went, oh my gosh, it became really obvious. You can see it now once I point it out to you. It's not coming up on the radiograph. It's not showing like bone does on the x-ray. Notice right here, there's more tampering. The tail turned out to be the claw of a squirrel that was glued to a bat tail. The wings were bats, but they were taken and glued to the back. The head was probably the head of a monkey, and then they put epoxy on this thing. The question is, why? Why? Why does anybody go through this? And Jaime gave us a video, and all this will be available probably in a couple of weeks. Jaime gave us a video where he talked about that the 13-year-old kid who found out the face of an angel, and he did pay money to the family, but not a lot. And he's waited on this thing for 5 years. And multiple experts have looked at this thing and all confirmed it was real. The only way, and we wouldn't have known, folks, we would not have known until that skin began to dry up around the arm section, revealing the wood and the glue. And that was the giveaway. And we went public with it. Let's move on. This is the Afghan giant. This is controversial. I get it. Can I vet this? Can I say with absolute certainty there's 12-footers walking around? No, I can't. But based on all my research, I'm not surprised. And the two witnesses that we had come on the record have also vetted Steve Quayle's story. Check this out.
Several years ago, well-known Nephilim expert Steve Quayle broke a story about a giant that was killed in Afghanistan. And he had an interview with the pilot that flew the giant's body out on a C-130 aircraft. The story was covered on the net and on Coast to Coast AM with with popular radio host George Norrie.
Back in December of 2008 in LA, Steve Quayle was on the program, as he's been so often, and he brought us that pilot anonymously. Pilot did not want his name disclosed, and he talked about this very bizarre story of how he flew this dead giant out to some base in Ohio.
Describe exactly what you saw.
Well, when we came up, basically came outside, we had a normal 463L pilot loaded down with what they told us was a giant.
Talked about this giant being 1,100 pounds, anywhere from 10 to 15 feet long, and it was killed. It was apparently shot somewhere in a cave in Afghanistan, but before it was shot, it lunged at several of our troops, our soldiers. It may have even gorged somebody. It was just a bizarre story, and it just sounds like the Nephilim from the Bible, doesn't it?
That's why we're so fascinated by it. So this is all in Watchers 10, and of course it's also in the book Nephilim Hybrid. So we now know the creature's a hoax, but there's so much more in both of these. And remember, Watchers 10 is called Watchers 10 DNA, and I'm going to get to that. Same thing with Nephilim Hybrids. All the DNA evidence that we took, and you'll see in a little bit. This is the first shooter that I interviewed. And when he told me the story, I interviewed this guy about 4 times on the telephone, and then met with him 2 times face-to-face. I heard the story. And at that point I said, Rick, I think he's telling the truth. We need to bring him on. This guy is ex-Army, ex-Marines. He showed me top security clearance stuff, which he's not supposed to show me, but he showed me his ID cards, showed me his passport, stamped to Iraq and Afghanistan and all over the Middle East. So, okay, so he has a paper trail. I mean, I get that. The story he told me verified what Steve Quayle was saying. But we found a second witness. Which was amazing. This is the second witness. And this second witness was deployed years later and in the Kandahar province of Afghanistan, and he heard about the giant of Kandahar, that had supposedly been shot by a patrol. He heard about it. It was rumored. No one was supposed to talk about it. And there was no collusion between the witnesses, and this is one of the reasons why we went with the story. Because now we had Steve Quayle's original story, and then we have 2 witnesses. Look, folks, can I prove this? No, I can't. But the bottom line is, when I start hearing stuff like this, we present it. This is what Watchers does. This is what research does. It's ongoing. It's ongoing. Don't you think I would love to get, a real picture of this thing? It's got to be somewhere. Somebody's got a real picture of this thing. Wherever it was shipped to, right, Patterson? Somebody's got a picture of it. Guaranteed, somebody somewhere snapped it, and they're sitting on it, not sure what to do with it. And people are scared to do anything. We work with 3 DNA labs. The one DNA lab, which is in the book Nephilim Hybrids, which talk about our research and the results of our DNA, is up in Lakehead, Canada. They let us come in, we filmed everything, their names are on the record. Here it is. The 2 labs in California, under the radar. They'll write me reports, no letterhead, no one signs the report. We can't mention who it is that we deal with. But they're both very reputable DNA labs. They don't want anything to do with this stuff. They'll test our stuff, and you'll hear the results of that in just a little bit. So anyway, we have 2 witnesses, no collusion between them, all talking about the Kandahar giant. And listen to this.
There you are in the hills of Afghanistan. How many troop members are you with?
We had 6 on my crew. And when we say hills of Afghanistan, for us, we did not fly into the wilderness. We actually flew into a base. I guess this thing was transloaded out of the mountains by a CH-47. What I could see that it did have the 6 fingers. I remember taking my foot up and placing it up next to its foot, and it was extremely large. We estimated it at about 12 feet, give or take. What I can tell you is the weight of the thing. Basically, it was approximately 1,500 pounds when it was getting on the aircraft. Now, if you take away the pallet weight and all the rigging that we had to hold this thing down, we figured it was around 1,100 pounds.
Of course we're upset. That's a given. Okay. We lost a very good guy. But
okay, let me tell you the story real quick. The way this whole thing came down was there was high-value targets. It's 2002. High-value targets are being dispatched in the Kandahar province in caves to search the area for high-value Taliban targets. A patrol is dropped off by a helicopter in a very remote area. They begin following this little go trail
they missed their first check-in. They missed their second rally point. They missed their third rally point. People are concerned back at the base. They send the next morning, they send another chopper up with another platoon of people to go find the first platoon, which has gone missing, missed all of their rally points. They don't know what's going on. So they're walking down this goat path, and this is where his story will pick up. And as they turn the corner, they see these what look like bone shards and meat, maybe human remains, parts of a radio. They're thinking wild animal attack. They don't know what they're looking at. And this thing comes out of the cave, this thing of nightmares. It's 12 feet tall, supposedly, and they're all sitting there like, and who wouldn't? Because all the training in the world doesn't arm anyone for something like this. This is off the charts. It's supernatural. And look, again, do I believe it? I sat down with this guy, I looked him in the eye. All I can tell you, and having just come off the ferry hoax, okay? All I can tell you is that every ounce of me believes this guy's story. If he's lying to me, he's a great liar. But the second witness, who's deployed 2 or 3 years after he's there, and the rumors around the base in Kandahar, the giant that was caught, that's one of the reasons why we went with the story. Still, no picture. Let's listen to what he has to say. And one of the reasons why I went with this, every time he gets to the point where this guy, Dan, is running and he's firing at the giant, and the giant moves with such agility and speed, he's got this pike, a spear, and he skewers Dan and lifts him up. Every single time he got to this point, he would break down. Every single time in the story, he would break down or hang up the phone or turn the other way or wipe his eyes or pause. And okay, so maybe he's really trained and he's a really good liar, but those are all body language signals that as an interviewer, you pick up on those. And that's why I did 4 interviews with him on the phone and then 2 interviews face to face, and that's why we finally vetted it, because it's a tall tale, I admit it. So let's listen to what he has to say.
Add to that, you're discussing something that even in our after action report, they're saying rewrite it. And we had to rewrite it the way they wanted.
How many fingers?
6 toes.
And 6 toes.
And the nails were weird because if you see somebody that ever has, I don't know what it's called, but it's
Like a fungus on
the nails, how they get pointy and they're like gnarly, that's what they look like.
I'm going to show you the artifact. It's a bronze artifact. We had it tested. It's about almost 98% copper, pure copper, but it's bronze. Does this look familiar?
I can confirm it was probably about a 10-foot pole connecting a lashed split pole like I guess they would have done back in the old days.
Was it about this long?
Oh, easily.
This was found in the wilds of Michigan. We have come to call it the Nephilim lance. It is definitely not a sword. It's a pike, it's a lance. And what, you put a staff on this thing, good luck trying to wield it. And what's interesting is the weight of this lance ties into the biblical prophetic narrative. Talks about the weight of the spearhead was 300 shekels, talking about one of the giants. I think it was Ishbi Benob. The giant spearhead was 300 shekels. When you convert that to pounds, that's 8.5 pounds. That's what this is. So the bottom line is they're walking and they come around on this platform down the trail of Afghanistan. The patrol is spread out, and they got 50 caliber 308s. They're heavily armed, and they're on red alert. And this 12-footer comes out of the cave, and before anyone can do anything, Dan breaks out of his stupor and he starts firing at this thing. The giant spears him and lifts him up like this in the air, and he's coming after more. Someone yells, "Shoot it in the face, shoot it in the face." And they begin to blast this guy's face off, so much so that when they finally saw it, the entire lower jaw from here was completely gone, according to the reports. It's a tall tale. I mean, I totally get it. It's, no pun intended, it's a very, very bizarre story. What's interesting is it dovetails into, you heard the pilot talking about bringing the giant, flying the giant out. This thing was 11, 12 feet tall. There's nowhere in the scripture, and you'll hear this at the close, there's nowhere in scripture that tells us that the Nephilim died off, that they were all gone. Here am I, and I told you this before, I'm 6 foot tall. This man is only 7 feet tall. Look at the disparity. He's only a foot taller than I am. You can see that, a foot taller. Look how much bigger he is. That's a 7-footer. See where I'm going with this? These guys saw a 12-footer. And it raises more questions than it answers. And I mean, I understand that. How old was this thing? Where did it come from? Is it 2,000 years old? Why did David, when he kills Goliath, he decapitates him, he cuts off his head? I talked to the shooter and I asked him questions and I said, let me ask you something. Did the giant show any bullet holes from the platoon that David, and he goes, wow, that's a great question. I just remembered, yes, it looked like he had been shot and it was healing itself. It looked like the entrance wounds from the bullets had healed. How's that possible? Are there other giants in the area? Are there other giants in the area? Is he just alone? Where did he originate from? When you look at a map where Afghanistan is and you look at the Middle East, which is Nephilim Central, you could cross that in a couple of weeks. And it's been thousands of years. Are they laying in stasis in some deep underground cave, as Steve Quayle believes? I don't know. What happened? There were artifacts found in the cave, mysterious, weird artifacts that were taken. And the military hauled the thing out. After they killed it, they shot it in its face. By the way, the smell, it smelled as powerful as a skunk, but like dead corpses, rotting flesh. That's what the thing smelled like. Was it real? You sit down and you talk to this guy and you tell me. That's why we ran with it. It corroborates Steve Quayle's story, and we have 2 witnesses with no collusion between them. So we've got 3 witnesses talking about an incident. That's why we went with it. The Serpent Mound, this is a new paradigm. The Serpent Mound, this goes back in the Genesis tree. I will put enmity, war, between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, you shall bruise his heel. This sets up the rest of the biblical prophetic narrative. If we don't understand what's happening in Genesis 3, in my opinion, we're clueless. And the church, for the most part, never teaches its people about this. So they don't understand. They just skip over it. Because 3 chapters later, you come into something which is really bizarre. You come into the Nephilim are on the earth in those days, and also afterwards. And guess what, in my opinion? And also afterwards means and also afterwards. There's more and more incursions. Why? Because there's no stopping here. There'll be enmity. We know that the seed of the woman becomes what? Messiah. The seed of a serpent becomes what? Over and over and over again. We see it in Jericho. We see it in Jericho. We see it in Sodom and Gomorrah. We see it all throughout the Levant. Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology. That's what it is. It's global. It's everywhere. The seed of a serpent. So now, when we come to Ohio, Peebles, Ohio, we've got this glyph. It's a huge glyph, and I'll show you an aerial photo in a little bit. And it shows the serpent with an egg. New Agers try to tell us, and they dominate all this stuff. The church doesn't care. The church doesn't talk. There's only a handful of us who are looking. Something is going on this planet. The clues are everywhere. And it's been deliberately swept under the rug and obfuscated, guaranteed. Just like this. And the New Agers and the archaeologists control the dialogue. And the Christians are completely asleep, and there's only a few of us out there going, wait a minute, not so fast, citizen. And so what we're looking at here is the serpent, and this thing is huge. I've been to the site, and it's really creepy when you're there. I felt like I was being watched the whole time. I mean, we prayed up like crazy before and afterwards, but it was just weird. So the New Agers tell us that the serpent is giving birth to the egg, and the egg is life and wisdom. And that's what it is. And they tell us that the serpent denotes wisdom. The serpent is wisdom. That's what they'll tell us. And they're right. They're right. God really didn't say that, did he? It's the serpent. And when you follow him, you'll get power and wisdom and all sorts of things, but it comes with a price, your very soul. So the serpent is here, and it's got the egg on it. And this is all aerial footage. Let me click that. It's really some cool stuff. This is in a high place. All these trees, when this was built thousands of years ago, and archaeologists debate whether it's 800 years, 1,000 years, or 4,000 years. I'm saying more like 3,500, because that ties into our paradigm when Joshua and Caleb push into the Levant, the Promised Land. There's a diaspora of the Nephilim tribes. Check this thing out. Look how big it is. The mounds are about this high. They're not real big. But to do something like this, and we know that most Native American tribes did not enter into this, did not do it. It's on a high place, as you can see the river over here. It's on a high place like this, and it undulates, and all these undulations point to solstices, equinoxes, the rising of the moon. It's all very deliberate. Who is the prince of the power of the air? Who is the God of this world? And that's what all this stuff denotes. So going back to Genesis 3, our new paradigm, and I have to, Mark H., who's an archaeologist, amateur archaeologist in Ohio, was the one that came to me with this, and then I filled it out and wrote about it in Prophecy Watchers magazine, and it's also in the book Nephilim Hybrids in great detail. We know that there it is right there. See the egg, and there's the head of the serpent. Here's the tail winding around like this, and there's the head. What if it's not giving birth to the egg? What if it's swallowing the egg? And why is it swallowing the egg? And why build this thing where you can really only see it from the air on a high place in the ancient world where there's no trees here at all? You can see it's a high place on this jutted out rock. It's a signal. And it's saying that the serpent will eat the egg. The seed of the serpent, the seed of the woman will never happen because the serpent is going to eat it and prevent Messiah from being born. That's what this glyph is, in my opinion. And if that's the case, and there's no way to prove it, it's huge. It's completely huge. And what does it do? It points back to the veracity of the biblical prophetic narrative. The seed of the woman, the seed of the serpent will be at enmity, at war with the seed of the woman. And here we have the serpent with its mouth open, and he's not giving birth to the egg. He's trying to swallow the egg. He's trying to stop the prophecy of Messiah. And that's what this is all about. They know. And it's in plain sight. It's in plain sight in Peoples, Ohio. You can go there and you can listen to the standard story that they tell you what it is. But this is a new paradigm. Never heard of before, in my opinion. Although it's interesting, some of the early Christian pioneers who came through this area picked up on it. Not back to Genesis 3, but they picked up on the fact that this didn't look like a friendly deal, and it's not, in my opinion. Okay, Watchers 10 is called DNA, and there's a reason for this. We were able to extract DNA legally from different artifacts. But our hypotheses we are working on, and it's always been the same, that roughly 3,500 years ago when Joshua led the conquest of Canaan, there were Nephilim tribes in the Levant. Those Nephilim tribes of the Zanzumim, the Emims, the Rephaim, the Nephilim, the Anakim, they're all there. And we think that those names may denote different genetic characteristics. There's no way to test that. There's no way, but guess what? If there are Nephilim tribes in the area, and Joshua and Caleb are pushing through this area, then we should see evidence of that. We're seeing it everywhere we go. It's all over the Americas. I just showed you a 9-footer out on Catalina. What the heck is that? That's not supposed to be there. So what we believe is as the conquest begins, some of these tribes flee the area. And if that's the case, there's a diaspora of these Nephilim tribes. And that's our hypotheses. So we had access to this bad boy. This was in a private collection in Oregon. It's called the La Oroja skull. It came from Peru. It's greatly elongated. I've gone to doctors again. I've looked nurses. Everybody's looked at this thing. And the question is, here's your brow ridge. Right here. This is my brow ridge. We all have one. It's right above your eyebrows. In men, it's more pronounced. It's women, it's not so bulky. Neanderthals, it's really big, right? But Neanderthals were probably Nephilim, but I digress. Anyway, notice the way we have a forehead. What happens after our brow ridge, right? It goes straight up, doesn't it? It doesn't go back. Look at this. And there's a doctor here who I actually filmed earlier on at another conference, and I show that clip, not today, where he looks at the skull and goes, well, you know, LA, there's no way you can cradle headboard that. And you know what, folks? If you take an infant and you bind the skull of an infant like this, and you can shape it, I get it. You can make him into a cone head, but you can't push back the frontal plate at a 45-degree angle. You can't do that without killing the kid. Look how greatly elongated this thing is on the back. We were able to take powder from it. Now, this was shellacked. It was also in a box with 2 or 3 other artifacts that were jostled around for 50 years. The owner of the skull received it from his grandfather, who died in the 90s. Kept it in the box, completely cross-contamination all over the place. The purest sample of DNA came from when we turned the skull upside down, took a Dremel tool, went in a little ways, blew it out with an compressed air, then went in further with the Dremel tool, and we extracted from that fresh, genetic material from the interior of the skull. That's what we have tested. That's what we have tested. And the results were very telling, and I'll get to that. These 3 skulls are in the museum in Paracas, Peru. Notice the reddish brownish hair. We have these 3 skulls. You're allowed to take hair without scalp. We took the hair, we had the hair analyzed. So we've got hair, we've got powder from one of the skulls.
Richard Shaw happened to meet a man who said he owned an elongated skull. It was huge. Richard was used to seeing such skulls from Peru. Since this specimen had been in the U.S. for decades, he asked if they could take DNA samples from it. The man agreed if L.A. would conceal his identity.
Just look at the difference there, folks. Look at the difference.
The next step was for them to travel to Oregon, where the skull was located. They met up with Mondo Gonzalez with a master's degree in archaeology and drove for the next 4 hours to a remote location. They couldn't believe what they saw.
You know, like, what's cool about all this is that we've had, as you mentioned, the difficulty of trying to get permits with Peru. And to be able to come here to Ashland to see these 2 skulls, especially side by side, it's exciting because in the collection we have this skull, which, as you mentioned, we don't really know much about. And then we also have a full skeleton with this human skull. And so to put them here side by side is very neat and illustrative of what we're seeing is the differences. One of the things that's exciting as well is you look at the brow line and you see it go straight back, and versus here, it still is going straight up.
In other words, there's a forehead here that we can see, and here there is no forehead, it's just straight back.
And even looking at the length of the skull heading backwards is just different. It's just incredible.
And also where the zygomatic arch is here, we see that there's a definite difference between the skulls. Also look at the mandible and how robust our sample from Peru is compared to the human skull. Now, I'm not sure, this might be a male skull. I'm not exactly sure. It looks like it, but I could be wrong. But this skull here has a very robust mandible, and the zygomatic arch is different than the human skull. So we start, piecing all these differences together, and it's in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to throw my chips down right now, that what we're looking at is something which has been genetically altered. And that's that. Look, can I call this a Nephilim skull? I can't. I want to make that really clear. But we have a hypothesis. And our hypothesis is that these tribes came out of the Levant. So if that's the case, we should see evidence of that. We were able to get the mitochondrial DNA, not the nuclear DNA. We need a lot of material. We didn't have enough material. This is why we're desperately trying to get back down to Peru to get lots of genetic material to test from multiple samples. That's our goal. We don't have yet. That's in the future. It hasn't happened yet. But that's our goal. Meanwhile, we were able to get the DNA, and this is why it's called Watchers 10 DNA, and the entire report of this is in the back of the book, Nephilim Hybrids. The mitochondrial DNA, which is the DNA from the maternal side, the mother's side of the family, came up T2B, and it originates around 10 to 12,000 years ago, Mesopotamia, Fertile Crescent, modern Syria, and Turkey. Okay, so why should that make a difference? Why when we heard that did I fall off my chair? I'll get to that in a minute. The hair analysis, look at the skull here. This is the cast that we have back at the table. Notice the blondish reddish hair. And again, three DNA labs were used in the testing. And the baby hair was carbon dated at about 2,000 years old, 1,930 years. The La Aroja skull, the one that's greatly elongated, the one I just showed you, T2B, that's about 800 years old. So 2,000 years ago is the time of our Lord. 800 years ago is still pre-Columbian. It's getting really weird. That's not that long ago. So what we found out is with this skull, the haplogroup was U2E1. Again, this is from the maternal side of the family, U2E1. Okay, so what, LA? I'll get there. These skulls here came back H2A, which again is a European haplogroup, a European ancestry. So to recap, and why is this important? Get this now. The Darwinian theory, the Darwinian paradigm insists that at the end of the last ice age, 10 or 12,000 years ago, when the Bering Strait between Beringia, or what is now Russia, and Alaska, it was a land bridge. It was open. People from Asia came down and populated the Americas. Okay, I get that. I understand that. And some of that happened. I get it. But guess what? They didn't come from Europe, according to the Darwinian theory. And 2,000 years ago, or even 800 years ago, is pre-Columbian. Pre-Columbian. What does this point back to? Especially with the big elongated skull, T2B, that points back to a Middle Eastern origin. That points back to a Middle Eastern origin. And guess who was in the Middle East? Guess where Nephilim Central is? Right there. Syria, Mesopotamia, Turkey. That is Nephilim Central. And European ancestry. When we saw this, we couldn't believe it. And it's not just one. We've got 4 different samples that we tested showing European or Middle Eastern ancestry. Folks, it rewrites history. I mean, it does. It absolutely rewrites history. You would ask yourself, why aren't they making a beeline down here and testing these things? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And when you find something like this, like I did in Catalina, it's bundled up and the picture is cropped and it's plastered on the wall. It's damage control. That's what's at stake here. That's what's going on. This proves, it points back to the veracity of the biblical prophetic narrative. Is it conclusive? No, it's not. Can I say with certainty it's Nephilim? No, I can't. Not till we get the nuclear DNA. I can't wait to go back down there. And having done the process, I know how it works. I'm not an expert. I know how it works. And you get, next time we go, we get as much material from every artifact as we can possibly get. We're not satisfied with a little, a half a gram of powder. Oh, no. We're getting grams of this stuff. Because the more they get, the more chance they have to sequence it. If it'll sequence it, they can get nuclear DNA. If they get nuclear DNA, we're off to the races. Because that'll tell us whether the father, that's what the nuclear DNA comes from, is human. But the problem is the labs don't even know what to look for. And that's why we have to tell them, you're looking for something anomalous. You're looking for things which don't add up. And that's why it's multiple samples, as much material as we can get. This is groundbreaking. And what really ticked me off was the stupid fairy, which turns out to be a hoax for crying out loud, gets all the press. Everybody goes nuts over the fairy and the sneaking thing's a hoax. Here we are with real DNA evidence after 3 years of being on the trail, and nobody seems to care. It rewrites history. I can't say it any plainer than that. We've got 4 samples. It seems to be pointing to European, Middle Eastern origin. That blows the Darwinian path. They're going to have to shuffle. And when we finally get nuclear DNA, and if it points to, well, we don't know what it is, LA, it's unknown in the gen bank, then I will begin to say that we're really off to the races. Okay, let's move on. Calm down, LA. Haplogroup UTE, European ancestry. Haplogroup H2A, European ancestry. This was done by Rick Woodward. He's an archaeologist down in Georgia. And he wrote me, this is what God does. God just brings these people. It's unbelievable. The Lord just does this stuff, and it blows me away. We had, these are Paraka skulls that we had access to. This is a human skull over here. You'll notice where the foramen magnum, you all have one. We all have one. Okay, a foramen magnum is the place at the base of the skull where the spinal column goes up and attaches to the skull. We all got one, okay? So the bottom line is, according to Rick Woodward, who's one of our archaeologists, he teaches archaeology at a school down in Georgia, we're saying that you can manipulate the head shape, but you can't push the foramen magnum back. Here it is, right here. You can't move the foramen magnum. The foramen magnum, you do that, you kill somebody. So you can't move the foramen magnum, which is right here. Look at the difference in shape. Look at the difference in shape between this skull here. Look at where it is in relation to the rear of the occipital plate, and look at this one, which is a human skull, to the rear. All these skulls that we've discovered in Paracas, and when we go back down there, now that we know this, every skull that we get, and some of these museums have hundreds of them, we're going to flip them over, click, 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 and take a picture of a location of the foramen magnum, because the foramen magnum is pushed back in the rear of the skull, further back than a normal human skull. That's a normal human skull. So it's further back than a normal human skull. Why should we care? Because it points once again to something genetic. The seed of the serpent is at enmity. There's a seed war going on here. That's what's so exciting about it, in my opinion. So, the Anakim were called the long necks. That's what that translation means. And according to Marcia Moore, who did this mock-up of what, based on an elongated skull, might look like, because of the placement of the foramen magnum, get this, being further back in the back of the skull, further back towards the occipital plate, the rear skull, not where it's sort of, we have it sort of in the center of our skull. That's where our attachment is, so we don't have a real long neck. She posited that because of the placement of the foramen magnum, because it was different, they were long necks. She knew nothing about the Anakim. She knew nothing. No Nephilim dog in the hunt, and she shows me this picture. And I go, Marcia, are you aware that one of the Nephilim tribes is called the Anakim, and Anakim translates long necks? She fell out of her chair. We're on the trail, folks. Is it conclusive? No, it's not, but man, it's exciting. And you say, LA, who cares? Because it points back to the supernatural. It points back to the seed war, to Genesis 3, which is going on all around us even as we speak. Let's move on. This is the ending. I got 17 minutes left. I won't be able to finish the other two presentations, even though they're staccato, so I'm going to move real quick. This is the close to Watchers 10. And the reason why I went with this, because it's just done really well, and it presents all the evidence. So check it out.
It's been a wild ride these past 3 years, researching and gathering information from all over the world, taking samples, walking through ancient graveyards, studying the enigmatic, elongated skulls and strange winged creatures. You might ask yourself, why in the world do we do this? The Old Testament says that there were giants in the land, specifically that the Nephilim were on the earth in the days of Noah, and also afterward. But here's the rub. There isn't any real biblical information on when or if all the giants disappeared. We don't know what happened to them. Apparently, there have been incursions of giants throughout history, all the way from ancient times until only a few hundred years ago in Peru and North America. Think about what I discovered on Catalina Island and how the museum is in damage control mode as they redacted the photograph from 1919 showing a giant just under 9 feet. Why did they think they needed to do this? However, in Afghanistan, there may still be giants hidden away in some cave, known only to the locals and the military. Their existence kept from the public. But why? What right does the military have to secretly study the carcass of a dead giant? And for what purpose? Then there's Jaime's creature, or fairy. We hope to do one more test, perhaps back at Seal Lab, and EDX analyses of the fairy would tell us, without question, if the white dots on the X-ray are composed of lead. If so, the veterinarian's hypotheses about someone shooting it down would be proven correct. Even at this point, the fairy appears to be genuine and not a fake. Could this creature be an actual example of what the book of Revelation predicted some 2,000 years ago? We don't know how much time the world has before things really go off the rails. As we stated in Watchers 9, these are the days of chaos. And people say they can sense something bad is coming. All we know is that so far, the historical information in the Bible is proving to be scientifically accurate.
So this is now from the days of chaos. We are in the midst of a cosmic regime change. And Michael Bodea talked a little bit about this last night. Actually talked a lot about it. They asked him saying, Master, but when will these things be? What sign will there be? When these things shall come to pass? And he said, take heed, you not be deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, the anointed one. The time draweth near, go ye not therefore after them. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified. These things must first come to pass. But the end is not by and by. Then he said to them, nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, famines and pestilence, fearful sights. Great signs shall there be from heaven. This is just really quick because I want to show you guys something. And this is what I talked about a little bit in Dallas. For many shall come in my name saying, I am the Christ. This guy is called the Russian Messiah. Watch this. This is just a few years old. This guy's got a following of thousands of people in Russia. They believe he is Jesus. Notice this, folks. Anytime you see people dressed up in funny costumes, that's a cult. Run to the nearest exit immediately. I don't care what it looks like. If they're in a costume, they're in a cult, period. And they think this guy is Jesus. And notice all the hats and the costumes and the whole, look at the costumes here. Okay, you kind of get the idea. You can go on and Google this guy, Russian Messiah, and he's praying now. Thank you. This guy's an imposter. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified. These things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Look, as Michael talked about last night, this is not a feel-good message. I mean, it's not. But just look at what's going on around on the planet. Look at what's happening with the wars and rumors of wars. Look at the rise of anti-Semitism, which is absolutely unprecedented that we see. Think about Hamas and the tunnels of terror. Look at, millions of dollars gets poured into Gaza. What do? They turn it around and build tunnels so they can kill Israelis. They teach their kids that Jews are the descendants of pigs and apes. When are we going to learn? And I don't care if an NSA hears this or not. When are we going to learn? When will the church stand up and realize and begin to say with absolute clarity and certainty that Islam is not the religion of peace, that Islam is a political ideology, that Islam is a political ideology with one goal, and that is to create Sharia law over the entire planet. That's where it is. And these goofy politicians that we have in the White House and other places are absolutely clueless as to what's going on, or it's engineered. The Syrian war, 300,000 dead, 400,000 dead. What's happened in Syria is calculated, and it's pushed all these immigrants into Europe. People go, LA, the blood moons. Nothing happened to LA in the blood moons. Just wait. Everything happened with the blood moons. We've got 1 million refugees in Europe without firing a shot. Are you kidding me? And now the Germans are pushing back. Did you read it today on the paper or Drudge News paper? Who uses this paper anymore? It's like, my dad would, he's 94, but he passed away 2 years ago. So how does that work? Anyway, on Drudge Report, it was talking about some mayor was like, support, we want more immigrants, and the townspeople got this guy and just pummeled him. No. Why don't they want the immigrants? Because they won't assimilate. And when they're there, they have no skills and they don't want to learn anything. They just want to live off the public dole. This is what's going on. Meanwhile, in Syria, the body count goes through the roof. Then you've got ISIS, which comes up from this vacuum where Obama calls them the JV team. Are you kidding me? This is the leader of the free world, and he still has done nothing. He's done nothing. How many Christians have been imported from Syria? Come into the country, what? Less than 0.5% of 1%? 0.5 of 1%? That's it. That's it. Thousands of refugees, and there's no way to vet these people. I mean, the idiots, the insane people have the keys to the insane asylum. The patients have the keys to the insane asylum. That's where we are. That's where we are. If Trump doesn't get in, it's over. It is the America that you and I grew up with, it's toast. I'm telling you right now. And I want out. I want out of here. But I won't go out because this is my post. Everything in my flesh goes, let's just head to the hills, honey, and disappear. That's all I really want to do. But God says, no, stand your post. You're going to be persecuted like never before, but stand your post. And when these things happen, look up, because your redemption is coming. And that's my blessed hope. Then we've got Iran. Praise the Lord. Then we've got Iran, which, this ridiculous, goofy deal. And now, the press doesn't do its job. The press doesn't do its job. It's like all this money is on the airport in Iran. It's hostage money. It's ransom. And the press just lets it go. They've ceased to function as they're completely in the tank. Now we read that, they may have sabotaged Trump's mic in the debate. Oh, surprise, surprise, surprise. And then this little weasel of a guy comes behind Hillary's podium. Where's he? Who's he? He greets her when she comes in this is at the debate. He greets her in the tented area where she comes in with her entourage, and they walk hand in hand. And she's about she's really short, and this guy's really short. And they converse, and who cares, right? But right at the end of the debate, this little weasel guy comes in like this, takes Hillary's notes, puts them under his arm, and walks away. What's that about? Who is this guy? What's that about? And then Hillary with the scratching thing, poker players are saying, like, she's signaling Lester Holt. Lester Holt challenged Trump. Notice, Ann Coulter wrote a great piece on it. 90 minutes and they never discussed the issues. All they did was attack Donald. You know, I hope he learned he's got to come out swinging. If this woman gets in, it is over. It is so, I can't tell you. You can see the passion in this is not a normal election. This is the death of America, or we're going to continue as a country, period. Has Damascus been destroyed? Has Damascus been destroyed? The Obama, where's that clip? Where's my clip? Come on now. Calm down, citizen. Hold on. Here it is. Okay. Before I get to the Damascus, this is just new. Obama administration denies Jerusalem is located in Israel. That's today's news. Why does he do that at Perez's funeral? Why does he do that? Because, in my opinion, with all due respect to POTUS, Obama's a Muslim. And he always sides. Yeah, I'm going to be getting a knock on my door real soon, I just know. LA, I'm from an NSA, and we just want to let you know that we're watching everything you do, including your really bad imitations of George W. Bush Sr. Yes, sir. Wait a minute, that sounds like W. He's all mixed up. But the bottom line is this, that this guy, everywhere he goes, he just downplays America, apologizes to America, tells us, that's not who we are. Nonsense. This is who we are. You're not who we are. And that's the problem with this thing. Get out of this thing. This guy has torn down our country and divided us in ways that I've never seen. And the fact that he won't call Jerusalem the eternal capital of Israel is a direct slam against Netanyahu. And guess what? Guaranteed, mark my words, Obama will lead the United Nations. That's where he's going to go. You wait and see. This is just a springboard. And once he gets in there, whoo. All right, watch this. This is drone footage, aerial footage of the area around Damascus. Around Damascus. Now, Damascus is not a ruinous heap yet, or so we've been told. But intel is really hard to get. The Isaiah 17 prophecy tells us that Damascus will cease to be a city. This is the area. It's a total dead zone. This is why all the refugees are coming out. Millions of people. The area around Damascus is gone. Damascus Central is still existing. And by the way, I can't remember, some guy who's running for president, the Green Libertarian Tea Party, whatever, not Tea Party, but he doesn't know where Aleppo is. Aleppo is in Syria, sir. Aleppo is being pounded into oblivion right now by Russians. We are looking at the nascent beginnings of World War III. Trust me, trust me. And what it has to do with is Sunni against Shia, the two branches of Islam. And the Sunni are the Saudi Arabias, basically, in Egypt and Jordan. And the Shia branch of Islam is Iran and Yemen. And they are the minority. That presents the Shia crescent. And the Russians are backing the Shia Muslims. And we're backing the Saudis. World War III has already begun. But the press doesn't cover it. No one talks about this thing. I can't remember the guy running on the Libertarian Party, whatever this guy's name is. What is it? Harry Johnson doesn't know where Aleppo is. Well, sir, I don't know your name, so I guess we're even. I know where Aleppo is. And there you go. So it just gives you an idea where we are. Then you get events like Fukushima, okay? Radioactive seawater impact map. I mean, whether that's true or not, who cares? I will tell you this, that after 5 years on the anniversary of Fukushima, the reason why I'm talking like this, first of all, I'm really passionate about this stuff, as you can see. And I've only got 4 minutes and 56 seconds left. But I may go another 5 minutes over. Well, you can't do that, LA. I'm hungry. Sit down. I'm only here for, come on. Give me another 5 minutes. Thank you. Events like Fukushima, and I'm not making this up. You can Google it. You can check it out. After 5 years on the anniversary, they finally admitted, TEPCO and the Japanese government, they finally admitted, get this, drum roll please, that they have no idea where the nuclear fuel rods are in reactor 4. They've gone missing. They don't know where they are. They're melting not through China because they're already over there. They're melting through down in Nebraska or someplace. They don't know where they are. And they don't know how much radioactivity, and they know it's leaking somewhere. This is where we are in 2016. You don't think he's coming back? And you know what? When he comes back, the White Horse Police Force, and I hope if I can get to that without weeping, I'll a big Mr. Big Crybaby up here. But the bottom line is, those of us who return with him, we're on flying white horses. And I believe, I'm already in the kingdom. Okay, I'm already there. I'm already thinking, how am I going to work? What am I going to do? I'm part of the White Horse Police Force. He's going to go, Marzulli, get over to Djibouti. Yes, sir. And that's where I'll go. And we'll do cleanup and whatever we got to do because he's going to rule with a rod of iron. And I'll be on a flying white horse. Yeah, baby. So look, we got super volcanoes. What's it talking about in Los Angeles, right? What's it talking about with Yellowstone? The Eyjafjallajökull volcano in Iceland. I mean, everybody's kind of going, oh my gosh, if one of these things blow. The church, don't bother me, LA. It really doesn't matter. Praise the Lord. It's okay. Jesus loves me, this I know, and I don't need a volcano. So there you go. Completely, no one ever talks about it. It's so negative, LA. And the snowflakes don't want to hear it at all. Oh, I don't want to hear about a volcano. I don't know what I would do with a volcano. I couldn't get my latte at Starbucks. EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapon. You've got Korea. You've got the Iranians. Are you kidding me? The spots haven't changed. And we know that Kim Jong-un, the nutcase over there, has got nukes. He's got them. We know that. All of a sudden, I went up to 7 minutes. Praise the Lord. Yes, thank you, Jesus. 7 minutes. Yes, sir. Why do they do that? Why can't they just be normal and yell? All right, EMP. And I'm in big trouble. I'm insulting so many people, including the NSA. Keep going, yeah. It's easy for you to say that. Wait till you get the knock on your door. Electromagnetic pulse weapon, what happens is there's a nuclear device that's exploded 200 miles up in the atmosphere over Oklahoma City. It sends out an electromagnetic pulse weapon, everything with an on-off switch. If it happened now, all the lights would go off, your cell phone wouldn't work, the little white strips on the airplane, everything it's utter chaos. We go back basically to pre-industrial revolution times. Millions of people will die in the first week. That's a very viable scenario. It's one that keeps me up at night sometimes because I know it can happen. This is why we stockpile. This is why I've got a garden. This is why I've got alternative measures to pump the well because I'm on well water. If everything goes down, pump, 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 and I got water and I can live with water in my garden and my stuff. Now, I don't know how much of this is going to happen before he returns. I have no idea. But I also know that there was a huge swarm of earthquakes in the Salton Sea out in California. Now they're going, well, the big one's coming, LA. Well, I've been saying that for the last 5 years. The big one is coming. Father God gave me a shot of that. What I mean, one of those little tap on the shoulders. And he told me this, when it happens, cry out, call out my name. That's what he told me. When it happens, and he said, you'll never experience this kind of violence because it's violent. Never experienced this kind of violence. Call out my name when it happens. And I told my wife that and other friends that. Earthquakes in diverse places. This is one of Jesus' little humorous things that he says that it goes over most of our heads. How can you know there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places? If you live in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, how would you know about an earthquake in Tokyo? You wouldn't. Now my iPhone pings every time there's an earthquake over 6.0. This is all happening. Earthquakes are on the rise. Volcanic activity is on the rise. Abortion holocaust. When this thing was ramrodded down our throats and the Supreme Court did it to us, right? We're only going to use abortion in extreme measures. Oh, blah, blah. Yeah, 1 billion, that's extreme measures. I suppose 1 billion abortions. And look, the women who are in the audience, God loves you. He forgives. We're all sinners. I get that. But 1 billion, 1 billion with a B. I can't even get my head around that. 1 billion worldwide. 1 billion. You don't think the blood of the innocent are crying out? Are you kidding me? And the church is clueless. The church doesn't do anything. And I said this before. Why doesn't every single church start taking out ads in the local paper? Well, take your baby. Instead of building, the new wing and making the mausoleum, put it out in the paper and take the babies. Take the babies. Raise them up. Why don't we do something? Go back to your church and start it. You guys can do that. Well, what am I supposed to do, LA? Start that. Do it. Go to your church and say, hey, Pastor, I got an idea. I want to save the kids. Why can't we just, and get a group of people and pray against the abortion clinic, and get a group of people and just pool your resources, put an ad in, we'll adopt your baby, and make it work. It's so freaking easy, it's ridiculous. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's make a difference. Gay marriage. I mean, I really thought when this thing was passed by the Supremes that there'd be pushback. I really believed there'd be pushback. Snooze, nothing. One clerk in North Carolina, wherever she was, stood up, and that went national. And she was supported by some of the church. Look, gays need Jesus too. We all need him. I get it. And Andy Kaminsky talks about, he was in the gay lifestyle, and he met Jesus, and he came out of that, and he's healed. That's what our Lord does. That's what our Savior does. It's inclusive to everybody. Muslims all over the planet are seeing Jesus. They're seeing Jesus in dreams, and they don't know what to do with it. We talk about some of this in Watchers 9. Baphomet in Oklahoma City. Are you kidding me? After school Satan classes and clubs. This is how far down the rabbit hole we are. And guess what? According to Hillary Clinton, we are in the basket of deplorables. Okay, I got to wrap it up. The coming great deception, this is it. Trust me. I believe with every ounce in me that this is it. When the UFO phenomena comes full scale in our face, people will freak. If the church is still here, and I think we will be, and we see this, it'll cause what's called the great falling away. The apostasia in the Greek, the apostasy. Jesus warns us people will be terrified at what they see coming upon the earth. The powers in heavens will be shaken. Something is coming. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Paul Hellyer states that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. And I don't have time to show you the whole clip. But he states, and Paul Hellyer is a former Secretary of Defense of the Canadian government, and he states unequivocally that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. John Podesta left the Obama administration. Out of all the things Podesta could bring to us and warn us about and tell us about, terrorism, the economy, what does he focus on? He wished he had more time and wish he had done more to reveal to the American people the veracity of the so-called extraterrestrial presence. That's called soft disclosure. It's coming. And unless we know what we're looking at, our priority before it comes, like what you see here, this was taken by the late Dr. Roger Lear over Kumburgaz in Turkey, 2009. That's a craft, gull-wing craft, and those are real entities in it. The seed of a serpent will be at enmity with the seed of the woman. They're coming back. They will eventually reveal themselves. And when they do, it's over. The Vatican and the rise of the one-world religious system. What is the one organization that can bring that about? In my opinion, it's the Vatican. And if you want to know more about it, check out the work of Tom Horn. Then you get these cults like Rael, who talks about the Elohim, that when they finally come, they will show Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha. Everybody will come out of the spaceship. I'm not making this stuff up. There's a book called After Disclosure. Folks, do you realize that when disclosure happens, it's over? It is absolutely over. About the time of the end, the body of men will be raised up and will turn their attention to prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition, Sir Isaac Newton. So here's what we do. Repent of habitual sin. And if I had more time, I would take you through that. If you've got a problem, you come up to me. We're going to have a time sometime this weekend, whatever, tomorrow, and I'll pray over you. Break it. Don't leave this place until you break what's holding you down. You need to do that. Some of us struggle and continually struggle. Okay, we drag the old man around with us. Break habitual sin. Put on the armor of God, Ephesians 6. Not sure how to do that? Come up to me after class and we'll talk. Destroy the works of the fallen one. I don't care when we get taken home. It's none of my business. People want to argue the date of the rapture. Is it pre? Is it post? Is it mid? I could care less. What our focus should be is to destroy the works of the devil. That's it. That's what we're here to do. We are in the midst of a cosmic war, a cosmic regime change, and I'm going to close with this. So I'm going to be about a minute over, okay? And Father, I ask that I get through this without bawling like a baby up here. And the reason why I bawl like a baby, because I was there for 3 seconds 36 years ago. In the body or out of the body, as Paul says, I know not. I only know I was taken up. And I found myself on a white horse, and I hate horses. There was no saddle, there was no bridle. I held onto the horse's mane, and I was riding. And we were going down onto something, and I didn't even know where we were headed. And in the center was Jesus. In the center was Jesus, and it was a horseshoe shape, and the shape was like this. It was a horseshoe, and he was in the middle of the horseshoe, and every eye could see him. And the host of heaven was not spread out flat like most of us would envision. I'm already losing it. The host of heaven was stacked like this, one level upon another, upon another, upon another, multiple stacks. And he's riding over here. I'm in the top right, about 8 rows back, and not on the top level, somewhere in the right. And every horse staggers himself so every rider can see the rider on the white horse, and those horses fly. Then I saw heaven open. I'm really sorry. Okay, I'm gonna snap out of this. Then I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems. His name is written that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a white robe dipped in blood. And the name by which he is called is the Word of God. And the armies of heaven arrayed in fine linen, white and pure. We're following him on white horses. From his mouth comes a sharp sword in which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God, the Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh, he has a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Thank you, guys. Go to lunch.